All right. I like your pensive pose, Karen. Getting ready for the camera, a natural look. Definitely welcome to both of you. I do enjoy these intimate gatherings. You know, I told Miss Linda I don't mind if it's 2 people or 20, because I enjoy the relationship aspect as much as I do the creative work, which I think is also similar here with you all. So really this agenda can go however it wants. I can bring up a poem that is not as heavy or dreary, and we can have a discussion about it, and then we can share, or we can do whatever you want. So I just want to kind of get a strong opinion. I know both of you are really flexible, but like how long you're going to be here today, Lucia, would also be good. And then if you wanted to share.
Okay. Yeah. And this is, unfortunately, this is a bad time for me, and I'm going to have to leave a little after 1. So.
Okay, that's fine. So you want to, we can always do, what do you want to do in the first hour?
All right. Well, I, read Linda's email, and I came with 2 poems, not by me. I'm still working on my Toyota poem. I think I'm going to keep that car. It's going to get a second life. So anyway, it's not ready yet. But I got 2 poems. One by an African-American poet you'll all know, and one by a white poet, but from the same period of time, and expressing something that's so similar that struck me to see those 2 poems, which are about the same length, to see them together. So that's what I was coming from today.
Hello, please leave a message after the tone.
Fariha, you're.
Sorry, I was, thank you for that. I was asking, do you want to share and discuss the 2 poems, or do you want to have a group discussion about the 2 poems, or like, how would you like to kind of do that?
Well, whatever works best for you.
Well, we're trying to honor you and your comfort level and choices. That's important to me.
All right. Well, we can go over them. And maybe now wait a minute. Maybe we should do a screen share here. I don't know what would happen if I tried. They're both at the Poetry Foundation.
Okay.
One, maybe somebody can pull this up. I'm afraid what will happen if I get off and try to share a screen.
Yeah. If you link myself for Casey, we can share.
Let me tell you, it's by Paul Laurence Dunbar.
Okay.
And I thought this was interesting because we started off these workshops, I think, with one of his poems in the beginning, the one that Maya Angelou uses for the title of her book, I Know Why the Bird Cage Sings, the Caged Bird Sings. Actually, I think everybody thinks of it by that title, but because of Maya Angelou, but I think it's called Sympathy. But I was looking at his poems, and there's one that really struck me called We Wear the Mask. So that's the name of the poem, We Wear the Mask. Are you familiar with that?
Except I thought that was Claude McKay.
No.
No, it's
Paul Laurence Dunbar. It's at the Poetry Foundation website. If somebody will pull that up.
Pull it up. Casey, you want me to pull it up? Or are you good pulling it up?
Just Google Paul Dunbar, We Wear the Mask, and it'll come right up.
Okay.
You should be able to share your screen.
Okay.
I think she doesn't want to.
Well, no, whatever. You can share that. Then there's going to be the second one.
Oh.
We can pull the second one up after we go through this one.
Okay.
And let me tell you the second one that I was going to relate to this.
Okay.
And it's one I'm sure you all know too. I Have a Rendezvous with Death. By the World War I poet Alan Seeger, who was actually killed in that war and died very young. Both Dunbar and Seeger died young. Dunbar, I've been researching him, and he lived all his life in Dayton, Ohio, as far as I can tell. So it's great. It's an Ohio poet. He was born in 1872 and died in 1906 at the age of 33. Seeger died in the war in, I think in 1916. He was slightly younger, 28. But the thing that really struck me is how they both expressed this feeling of being trapped by fate. Dunbar is expressing the feeling of being trapped by his Blackness. You know, we wear them, and how it makes him act in a way that may not express the true person that he is. Seeger, who died in World War I, expresses being trapped by that fate. He got into that war. He was in France when it broke out. He volunteered for the French Foreign Legion, and then I'm sure he regretted it very much when he saw how it just wiped out a generation of young guys over there. How everybody was getting killed in these bloody wars in the trenches, but he couldn't get out. I mean, you know, they'd shoot him if he deserted. So both have this sense of that being trapped by fate. And I guess that's what poetry is all about, expressing a universal human, you know, emotion, something in the you know, human feeling that's universal. So do we want to, shall we go through, we wear the mask first? Who wants to read it? Or I can read it, whatever, however y'all want to do.
I
I
can
think
read
Karen
it.
wants to read.
I could read it. Let's
Okay,
see.
great.
Had to make sure I was unmuted. Let me go back to my page now. We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but oh, great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet and long the mile. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask.
That's just such a fantastic piece of poetry to me. So, you know, I get what,
There's also I think he has this is a younger poet, correct? If so, there's, I think, a video I saw.
oh, I don't know about the video.
Well, I wonder if it's the same. It was like,
Well, I don't know. I mean, this guy died in 1906.
okay.
Yeah.
Who did I see with the mask? That's why I was like, oh, this is a very young poet.
But I'm sure a lot of people have taken off from this thing.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, you know, it's probably something like that. And the Maya Angelou, you know, used his other poem, Sympathy,
Okay.
about I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And so then you want to go to I Have a Rendezvous with Death by Alan Seeger, Seeger.
Say that again, please.
Seeger, first name Alan. I Have a Rendezvous with Death, Rendezvous. My high school French is a little sort of dated here.
Rendezvous is fine.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. All right. Somebody read that.
Big enough for you?
Casey, why don't you read it? You're a young man, maybe about the same age as this guy who's about to get killed at the Battle of home.
All righty. I Have a Rendezvous with Death by Alan Seeger. I have a rendezvous with death at some disputed barricade when spring comes back with rustling shade and apple blossoms fill the air. I have a rendezvous with death when spring brings back blue days and fair. It may be he shall take my hand and lead me into his dark land and close my eyes and quench my breath. It may be I shall pass him still. I have a rendezvous with death. on some scarred slope of battered hill. When spring comes round again this year and the first meadow flowers appear. God knows 'twere better to be deep, pillowed in silk and scented down, where love throbs out in blissful sleep, pulse nigh to pulse and breath to breath, where hushed awakenings are dear, but I've a rendezvous with death. At midnight in some flaming town, when spring trips north again this year, and I to my pledged word am true. I shall not fail that rendezvous.
Okay, great.
There's a lot of tongue twisters in there.
Yeah, I think you did a great job. The young man I was
Thank you.
speaking. To me, this and the poem by Dunbar, the lament in their heart is the same. I feel it in the same way. It grabs me in the same way. And it's something about being trapped by fate that is coming across in these things. So anyway, so there's what I'm doing today, and I'll pass it to somebody else now.
Yeah, I'm happy to discuss both of these. I'm actually reading the Alan Seeger one again. I usually read poems once or twice, so we can have a short conversation about it. Maybe you can even lead lead or pose questions to the group, however you feel fit. But I'm happy to talk about these because they're interesting, and I wonder what overlap you see that we might not see, and then vice versa. Right, I see the darkness, quote unquote, but I don't.
I see the human feeling of these
Okay.
two young men, you know, again, as I said, both sort of feeling trapped by their fate. They're trapped by their fate, and they're sort of, you know, no way out of it. I mean, you know, how do you change your skin color? How do you change being in this war where you have a very high probability of getting killed, as he did? Casey, what was your thinking as you read that?
It's very vague, but just life in general and rendezvous. What's the definition of rendezvous?
A meeting.
Yeah, planned meeting. I'm going to meet you for coffee this afternoon at 3. We're going to rendezvous.
I guess coming to terms with it, but you said it was written by a young poet, right?
Yeah, he was 28 when he died.
Yeah, that's interesting to me that he wrote, or someone young wrote this.
He was in the
Oh,
middle
he was
of,
28 when he died, though. That's
yeah, he was in the middle of war though, Casey.
Oh, okay. Then
And this
that
was literally
changes-
like 100 years
see,
ago.
I'm
Yeah.
just reading it from afresh.
And he was living around the same time that Dunbar was living. Dunbar lived from 72 to 1906. So, you know, roughly that same era.
I think this is one of those ones where you'd have to break it down line by line. Like when spring brings back blue days and fair, I would have to sit there and really think about that for like 5 minutes just to understand why he chose blue. Because when you think spring, you think green and growth, but with the war in context, I would have to think like, you know, why blue? Is it something to do with the war? You know, or is, because you got apple that's red, and there's a lot of whatever that word is, not alliteration, but seems like every word he chose is very, you know, within the context, but very concise.
The bringing in the reference to spring makes it sadder to me because he's, you know, he's saying he's going to miss that. he feels like he's going to die in the spring. Actually, I think he died in the fall before the next spring. He made it through the last spring he was probably talking about. But, you know, to say this beautiful time of awakening is coming and I am going to die. That bringing in spring rather than fall or winter makes it sadder to me.
I had the opposite feeling though, which is interesting with spring. But then he starts it with when spring comes back with rustling shade. So that's obviously setting a dark pretext.
Mhm.
I think he was putting out there the inevitability of the end of our mortal life, and he was faced with it more than we are probably because he was in the war. So he's like, I could die this spring. I'm going to die sometime. Even after spring goes, I have this rendezvous with death that I will keep.
Yeah, that's a good thought. Mhm.
I also think I didn't think of what Karen said, because I was reading the last stanza like 3 or 4 times as it feels like it kind of shifts. But I think it is very juxtaposed with, well, maybe for me, my interpretation is it is very juxtaposed between like what's going on in terms of like looking forward to death, but dreading it, and the darkness in the spring, like a rebirth, like are you reborn in your grave? And then I kept on thinking like this idea of not reading the last stanza properly. But as Casey said, it's a lot to unpack, but I think it has both elements of like heavy and light in terms of like seasonal, you know, and dark and like life and death, because, you know, spring is rebirth. So I don't know if anybody else read the last stanza as kind of a turning point, but Karen's point's interesting.
Very deep. I'm too young.
I don't know. But do any of you get the same feeling of inevitability trapped by fate that you get when you read the Paul Dunbar?
Yeah, I mean, you can't escape what's coming, right? Like, because at the end of Dunbar's poem, I think he says, "I still wear the mask," or "We still wear the mask," or is a one-liner. That's quite
We wear
short,
the
and so I
mask.
do think there is this.
An
Dunbar,
inevitability about it.
yeah, well, Dunbar's poem has more of a currency about it. It's like, this is my life, this is how I live. I mean, he's not talking about death so much, but his everyday struggle. Every day I wear the mask and hide my feelings because the world should not know so much about me and how I suffer. So whereas Seeger's poem really is more like, I'm feeling like I'm gonna die, and
One event facing me.
yeah, it could be today or it could be tomorrow, but we know I'm going to die.
That's right.
I did
Yeah,
see the when you mentioned that piece, Lucy, about the overlap. I thought the thematic overlap was like this darkness idea more so than, you know what I mean, like this death is dark, the mask is dark, right? Sunken eyes and such. So that's how I put it together. And I don't know if that's what you were going for, but I'm
No, I was going for more of a kind of a fate thing, you know, and everybody on earth faces that. We're born a certain way. You know, I may not like my nose, the color of my eyes. I mean, there's things that determine us we can't change in our life. And in a way, the Dunbar is talking about a coping mechanism, which is not in Seeger. He's just, you know, I'm here, they're shooting at me probably right now, as you wrote, and I'm gonna die. And Dunbar is more of like, all right, I'm here, I've got this issue, but I'm coping it. But this is how I'm coping, and how he's coping is so sad. And, you know, I don't know.
Just
It doesn't
remember,
grab me the same way for some reason. It's something about fate. You know, you're born with things. And
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I wouldn't discredit your thoughts, because I'm glad you mentioned that, because I saw it as this darkness piece, and Karen like noticed it. You know, I also noticed a difference in tone, because one is a little bit can be more pessimistic, and one is like, you know, very like, this is what it is. I'm still gonna wear my mask. Welcome
And
to
I'm
America.
coping, but
Yeah.
how he's coping has a kind of bleakness to it.
Yeah, but then this one also has like, not this one, the second one also has a little bit of like, I don't, did you all see the spring, like the silk pillows or when I lay in my slumber? I don't know if that was a metaphor for the grave, like this, you know, like more like spiritual, if it was like, maybe I'll have a happy temporary sleep in this temporary abode, but the long abode is, you know, different or more dreary, or the idea of death is dreary, but the idea of coming back to life, or, you know, how, I mean, there is obviously spiritual elements to conceptualization of death, but I might have read too far into that aspect of the last stanza.
No, I can see that. I can see that. And I see that in Dunbar too. Where he says, "Oh great Christ, our cries to thee from torture." So that's you know, a looking toward, but looking beyond, looking for some sort of resurrection, looking for something. I think I see that there. I don't know.
You have to know a lot more about Dunbar to get to the frame of reference that I have. You got to remember,
Tell us.
he's the guy that wrote Sympathy, which became, you know, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings.
Mhm.
He had to deal with his color and the way people reacted to people of his color. And basically, We Wear the Mask is how we protect our inner self from the general public. Because why should I put on a show of my real feelings to people who are going to be an unsympathetic audience? So I wear this mask. When they look at me, they see me as a smiling, upbeat person, but inside I'm really in torture. But why should I let them see that? Now, it's different than dealing with death. It's dealing with current living conditions.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, Karen. I was with you up till like the last couple of sentences, because I thought he wore a mask because he was forced to, because of like, you know, societal oppression and such. And I also
in a way, yeah,
You
because
got on better if you smile
yeah.
and complain. I mean, it was probably dangerous in that era for a Black man to complain. I mean, you know, all of that's built into that.
Yeah, and I think there's, you know, I think if we look at death in a larger context, you know, what is death, right? Like, is it spiritual death, right? Because I'm not going to get too political because it's being recorded, but like this idea that we often kill people but they're still alive, right? Like spiritually numb. Just think about all those aspects, right? How we kind of allow ourselves to die, or society creates some level of, you know, however you want to interpret that. But if we can't be in touch with our emotions, it's just a lot, like emotional death, pain. There's just, I feel like, layers to it. So I always try to look at death as this very large construct under which a large component is the literal removal of like the body and the heart beating. But what is it when the body and the heart are still together? You know, what does that look like? So maybe that's a little bit too much depth, but it could be death in that larger context, in my opinion. You know, like this, I can't be who I am, and so is that really living?
Well, what do you think the long mile? Give me your interpretation of that, of his use of that in there. It's in the next. It's in the third.
Yeah, like, I think, you know, like a long road to justice. Like that's kind of how I think. You know, just like yeah, like this is a long journey before we remove ourselves from. I mean, I don't even know if there's an end point, but this road is long, right? To be without the mask, like this fight for justice, and you know, that's kind of how I looked at it. But I don't know if Karen has something more literal.
No, it's, yeah, this life is long, and so is the torture of this life. And we sing, but you know, let the world think of it otherwise. We wear the mask, we smile, but we've got these cries that go to Christ for deliverance from the torture. But we don't need for the rest of the world to see it.
like I was thinking also like long road home, right? Like if you want to look at it as death, like what is home, and right, are we at home, all that stuff. But yeah, did you have a different interpretation, Miss Lucia, about this than Karen and I did?
No, I think that makes sense. It's a long road. Like, it's a. Like it's sort of like the expression, a hard road to hoe. He's on the clay beneath his feet is vile, and it's a long way to go with
Yeah.
that kind of condition, on this vile clay. Yeah, that captures it. Anyway, so that's all I had for today. I'm looking forward to what you guys are going to present, but
Okay. You said
I
you're
was-
not looking forward to it.
I am. I'm looking forward to what you
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 could have
guys
said
are going
not.
to
I was like,
present.
no, yeah, no reason. I thought you said not, but
Your
Karen,
turn.
if you want to mention what you're presenting. So I honestly, what I wanted to do, but then I'm like, maybe I shouldn't do this, is work on a poem. But I think some of the beauty of workshopping is reading something really raw, which I know is kind of antithetical to what Casey said earlier. But this is a workshop; it's not a performance, right? But like, how does our work evolve? Because we often don't see like the earlier drafts of writing, and then we judge ourselves for not having this, Robert Frost Two Roads Diverge poem. But like, how long did it take to envision that poem, to write a draft, edit, refine, etc.? So I actually didn't touch any of my pieces, but I am interested to just talk about that idea in terms of the writing process as a potential discussion point, and then maybe to read. But again, my poems, minus one that I didn't write in the workshop, but I have written in the last 2 months, are generally like on the heavy side of things.
Before we move on though, too, with the mask, I forgot to point out the fact that actors, especially in the Greek and Roman tradition, actors wore masks, and so like the physical mask, and he's pointing that up, that we have to cover our real emotions with a mask because no one needs to know the things that we are enduring and going through. So we wear this mask that might be a smiling mask for a comedy, or
Yeah,
or
yeah, that's a great
mask for
point.
drama.
Yeah, I missed that. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also when Karen mentioned mask, there's I don't know what, let me look up the word because I didn't know this before. Mexican wrestling, what are they called? Luchadora?
Yeah,
Is that what it's called?
yeah.
Okay. Lucha Libre, or luchadores. I was right. Okay, so and generally it's men. So again, it's an extension of their personality or secret identity or whatever. But I thought about that too, Karen. Even though those aren't like smiley masks, you know what I mean? Even it goes with character, but they're not like, I don't know if they're meant to show emotion or just an upbeat, like an intensity of character, right? So yeah, so I thought about luchadoras, even though I've never seen a luchadora competition live. I have seen some appropriation, but yeah. So that's interesting. And you think about like memes, or what are they called? Mimes. I can't even think. The people who do the silent
Mimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
M-I-M-E.
Yeah.
I thought it was mine, that I'm like, maybe it's not. Yeah, so the mimes, but again, that's painted on and that's different. But that's a good point, Karen. So it doesn't necessarily have to be about the societal aspect as much about like presentation and performance, which I guess then honestly ties back to that same point anyways, depending on how you look at it. So
And what is your life but a performance?
Yeah.
Shakespeare even said
Every
that,
Every day we're wearing a mask in
Right.
some way or another. It's
Yeah,
very
why not?
universal. I love
There was also a very neat project. I used to go to Spirituality Network's Artie Gras, which is once a year before, right before the beginning of Lent, and it was a day of creativity and spiritualism. And one of the years I went, one of the presenters had a project, and she had those molded fiber mask, and we were to decorate them. And on the outside with paper mache, etc., embellishments. You could make it look however you want someone to see. And then you'd also decorated the inside that would be close to your face with a collage of maybe your real feelings. So it was embodying this poem in a simple art project.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Hmm. So it was like a multiple layered mask, so to speak.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. You
Very
had
interesting.
what the side that you wanted the public to see, which might be your flashy Mardi Gras face, and then the other side that you are, your true self, might have pictures of someone, an introvert or, yeah. So,
Hmm.
and it was
Interesting.
making it in a tangible form that you could see and hold.
Yeah. Did you is any of the mask supposed to be hidden, like the interior part, or that wasn't the idea?
Now, the interior part, it's there and you have made it. I mean, you could always show it to somebody,
Yeah. But it's personal.
but the outer face is supposed to be representative of what you think that the world should see, and the inner face is what is true and keep hidden. So,
Okay.
yeah.
It's kind of like luchadores, even though I need to move away from that topic because I might go too far with it. I saw a play recently in my discombobulated thought defense. I saw a play recently in Columbus with 2 kids, and it was about luchadores. So it was very interesting. And I was like, this, anyways, it was really nice, and it was made for kids, but that's why that's on my mind. Then I forgot what I was gonna say besides
Luchador is more like
hidden identity.
keeping a secret identity. It's like,
It's the same
the
thing
mask
though.
that Superman, that Spider-Man wears,
No, you don't know the real person, the real pain.
and,
You know what I mean?
it shows no emotion.
That's true. And you also are this hero, but then you're this everyday person under the mask, which technically is like a demeaning, not that everyday people are like less than, but this idea that we think of them as less than. So it is some level. Well, I agree. The idea is a hidden identity, and like nobody knows who you are, which is not about pain or whatever. It's more about like your literal identity. But I wonder how that relates to your symbolic identity. So yeah, but I'm also I'm going down this too far down this. I'm gonna keep on going down it if we don't switch gears. Luchadores is fresh on my mind.
I gotta run off for 2 seconds. My dog's outside acting stupid. So hold on a moment. Keep going. Carry on without me.
Okay. Sure thing. Do you want to discuss anything else, Lucy, about this poem? And then we can transition to Karen when she's back, or to Casey if he wants to.
No, that's it from me. And I think I got a lot of good insights from this discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's time to
I also
move on.
appreciate you thematically connecting them. I just wanted to say that because I did thematically connect them, but on a different wavelength. And so I appreciate you doing that.
Right. And I just saw the first thing that jumped out to me was, you're trapped by your fate.
Yeah.
But there's so much more there. And that's the beauty of these workshops. So anyway, but let's move on now to the next person. So
Did,
Casey or Karen or.
Yeah, I'm trying to think which workshops we recorded and which ones we didn't, but I think the first one we did record. And I was trying to see if I shared anything then. But
only one we didn't was the second. It's because I forgot.
No, that's fine. I think no, I think all of them we had attendance. Of course, one of them I was completely missing, so that's another one. I remember the second one. I was cool with it not being recorded, but I'm just trying to think back to the first one. I might just visit the YouTube. But Casey, are you interested to drop or I guess share screen and audio, or is it you want one of us to share because it's a little bit like you're in a public or a larger space, I should say.
Let me see real quick. I'm pretty sure I already made a folder.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff I've been working on. So
yeah, you can share something that relates to the mask. If you have anything, since you're running with that.
Share what you plan to share today, Casey.
No, I didn't prepare as far as poetry, but if you want to hear my music, I can drop.
What is it? Do you write the lyrics?
Here's Karen.
Yeah.
Well, Karen is wanting to say that I didn't get the email, so I am unprepared. So I don't know what you're expecting
My
from me
goodness,
today.
I'm the only one who did the homework.
I
It
didn't
was,
get an email. I was busy looking for the email while you all were talking earlier.
no,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was not CC'd on the email, but it was just like the opportunity list for other people who were not part of the conversation, Karen, and you were part of that conversation, so I wouldn't be too concerned. So you can share whatever you want, honestly.
I think Casey could
Opinion.
share his lyrics.
Let's hear Casey while I'm trying to
Yeah,
find
Casey,
something.
share your lyrics at least. If you don't want to sing, it's
Do
okay.
you write the music, or do you write the lyrics, or do you do all of it and the production and all of that?
Everything, yeah.
Oh, so
start
what?
to finish.
Okay.
Well, sing it for us.
Yeah, I
No.
also wanted live. I don't think that's fair, because
Especially with it being recorded, I'm not.
okay. Oh, thanks. So you're putting all
Let
of us
me
on.
look. I just recently reduced my lyrics from having 1,000 little snippets to now 439. So let me scroll through and see if I can find one
that you
would
like.
be good.
Yeah,
to
yeah,
share.
and then one of us can play it if you think your background is a little bit louder. I'm cool with that. But in the future, I guess on a like in person Tuesday tea that I'll ask Linda to bring me to. You can sing a cappella. I won't be recorded.
Gonna need some pitch correct for that. Yeah, I'm looking now. I shared the link. If you ever get a lot of time to listen to pop, rap, all kinds of genres, and those are about, let's see, 17 out of, I plan to have about 115 when I'm all done.
Ooh,
So
it's ambitious.
yes, it'll take some time. I finished the lyrics, but I have to lay down the vocals, and that will take time. And then, of course, producing it, making sure it all sounds great. But yeah, continue the conversation. I'll look up a lyric of mine, and if you ever get the time, save that link that I shared in the chat and check out what I've been working on.
Okay, I will not pressure you anymore. If you want us to
you.
look at it privately, that's fine. I thought you were gonna share out loud, like pick one of the couple clips. But I did click on the link, so I appreciate you sharing
All
that.
right, so these are all, I'm looking at them now by your
there's a
side.
few of
Can't
them.
we all? I mean, those are all your lyrics.
Those are the actual songs.
Those are the
As
actual.
far as-
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. You wouldn't want the folder with all my lyrics. It would be a mess.
Okay. And you don't want to go over one of them? How about by my side?
I'm looking at the moment to find one that is good for.
You're comfortable with. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Fariha, what were we thinking about? Were we going to talk about process, or? Yeah,
It's fair game. So honestly, the reason for the 3 options was like so people don't get anxious, but you're not one to turn around and read stuff or think of a conversation topic, but it was for other people who weren't there. So I think it was bring a poem or poems that you like, other authors, your own that you've worked on in this period or in the workshop. And I think the third one, let me see what it was. Let me look it up. I'm looking at it now. Actually, yeah, she sent it a couple days ago. Or a short dialogue about what you love about poetry and or what you feel poetry is. So I'll drop this all in the chat. But again, Karen, it's loose. It's just for people to have some direction in case they need it for their, stage fright or whatever Zoom stage fright you want to refer to it as, for recording stage fright. So I dropped it in the chat. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think you shared the first time too, Karen. I think you've actually shared almost every time.
I think I've shared nearly everything I've written during the course of this.
Yeah.
So,
But did you work on anything between now and then?
I'm always writing. That was what I was going to say. I was going to talk about process a little. The fact that One, I have like an ongoing project. Rather than writing a standard memoir, I'm trying to write a memoir with poetry. So a lot of my poems are poems of memory, and they're about my mother as she was going through Alzheimer's, about my husband, and then about my daughter, and the fact that we've spent most of her life without her father, who passed away. I do also write every now and then to prompts, but my writing process, I call myself a percolator poet, because I'll have an idea and it'll be up here in my head and it will swirl around until it's ready to pour out on the paper. And if I try and force it out, it never meets my standards. I don't usually like them. I do try to write every now and then some humor. But yeah, I'm all over with poetry. I do mostly write free verse rather than trying to fit into a form. For me, it's all about getting it out and said, and not having to work with the mechanics of rhyme schemes and format. So, all right, I can do one of my poems, and it's a poem of memory, and it's called Different.
Is this one you've written in the workshop or just in general? Because I know we've heard
In
some.
general.
Okay. Well, and I appreciate you sharing about your process. I think when you're done, we can talk about that too if you want. And I'm really happy to hear you're writing memoir poems. I think my work is cross-genre, but it's because the nonfiction ideas blend in. You know what I mean? Mine is also future. It's unwinding my past and then, analyzing the present and then radically reimagining the future. And that's not how I planned it to be. So it's super exciting for me to hear somebody else. And I never would have known that unless we were in this session. So I just want
about poems of memoir.
No, that you're writing a book of poems that also basically are memoir, just in poetic form, rather than, you know what I mean? The language is just a different form. So that's really, it just makes me really excited, basically.
It's a good way for me to leave, legacies and stories for my daughter. So this one is called Different. The first day of 8th grade, when I responded to the roll call in Mr. Sewell's class with "present," I heard the stage whisper from several rows back, "She even sounds smart." Freshly arrived from an Illinois school system subsidized by the United States Air Force, I was not prepared for how far behind academically this Dayton City school would be. I went home to my mother and cried, "They've got me in the dumb class." On our visit the next day, we were assured that I was in their most advanced classes. Thus began my year of social education. I never had homework because I finished it at school. I learned to play the dozens in the back of history class. My best friend Karen and I still reminisce about the time we ran home from a school function, evading an angry potential rapist, slipping through apartment buildings and backyards as if Harriet Tubman had left us behind to escape on our own. You're different. I've heard so many times, the only label I wear with pride. It means you're not able to pigeonhole me, tick off the boxes on your list of stereotypes. I am a Black woman who listens to country music and dresses like a bohemian, who reads like there's a medal at stake, who gets excited about word origins and poetry, feels actual pain when music and voices are too loud. And no, I don't know where you can find weed.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, love that. The last one really gets you, the last line.
That's true.
Yeah, a lot of people think people with locks know where the weed is.
Yeah. Oh, love it.
I appreciate the prior transition, like halfway through.
Mhm.
Yeah, it made me about describing yourself about like how you dress and how you identify.
Yeah.
So that was again like super specific and also lighthearted. So that was well done. And I also didn't expect the weed reference. And maybe I just, don't see that myself. But that
You
also makes
reject the
yeah.
mask.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you're saying there. Yeah.
What you see is what you get, but make sure you're looking at what you see and not looking at it through the filter of your expectations.
Yeah.
Thank you. When did you write that one, Karen? And what was the intention? Because I know you said you're like percolating.
That one was just written, oops, I usually have it on the bottom of my poems. That one was it was written within this year, and it was just, one day it popped out. I do have some of those poems too, where I just like wake up with an idea and write it, and yeah, and sometimes I don't even know where those come from.
It comes from your brewing, your percolating,
Yeah.
your overnight percolating.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Do you want to discuss that poem or your process? That's what I meant to say. Your process dialogue earlier, you threw a lot in there in a good paragraph. It was pretty packed.
You take it away, and you're gonna ask me any questions.
Yeah. And let me have Lucia chime in because I know she has to leave in a few minutes. Lucia, and we can always send you a recording for the last 30 minutes.
All right. Now let me ask Karen. All right, you're talking about your daughter, right? Really? Who came
Not
from a
in
better
this
school
one.
district? Not in
Not-
this.
not- no,
This is you. This is you and your daughter.
Me. Yeah, this
All
is
right,
me
so-
when I was 8th grade.
Okay, so you came from a better school district, school system. You came into this school system and you thought, oh, they put me in the dumb class, but really everybody, that was the good class because they were so behind where you had
Right.
the system where you had been,
Yeah.
the military system.
I'm an Air Force brat, and so I came back to Dayton. Dayton was our home of records, and so I came back to Dayton about 8th grade after our first tour in Southern Illinois, and yeah, I was kind of unprepared for how
Yeah,
far behind they were.
how it was. And this is Dayton. You said this is Dayton.
Oh, yeah.
Dayton's on the table a lot today. Dunbar is from Dayton.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I got it. I got it. And again, I mean, it does sort of relate to like, what we heard from Dunbar. It was, I mean, did you then, you sort of hid who you were?
I didn't have to expend myself on the academics. I don't remember
right, 'cause you
learning
were already-
anything academically, so it was kind of like a gap year in junior high.
Yeah, because you were already a step beyond where everybody else was. And to me, you were sort of wearing a mask.
So it was a good year of learning how to be a social education is how I put it. That literally a very shy girl learning how to get along in a population that was probably more socially adept than her.
No, and that last line is brilliant.
Yeah, I also wonder.
That sort of says it all.
That's true.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I also wonder, Karen, did you have a friend named Karen, or were you talking about yourself like in third?
No, I do have a friend named Karen, and I've had her since 8th grade, and we talk and basically we only went to school together that one year, and we've still been friends all these years. So
Wow.
She and I lived fairly close to each other in the same neighborhood, and
Oh, wow.
yeah.
That's
So,
wild. Did you stay in Dayton for high school or in the same school system, or did you? relocate?
I went to Patterson Co-op for 9th grade, and then we moved back to Illinois for another tour at Scott Air Force Base.
Oh,
So I have, my oldest friend is from 3rd grade, and in another poem, I point out that she taught me how to be a friend just by staying put. She's been in the same house her whole life. So she was easy to find, and I compare her, the compass drawing tool, that she was like the sharp point that you put in the center, and I'm the pencil that runs circles around, but I'm always grounded by her. So
That is a poem. Like
it is.
called
It's
the,
another
beautiful
poem.
image. That's a
what is
great
that called?
image.
That tool in geometry that when you're referring to? A
Compass.
The compass, yeah.
It's a
that's
compass.
There's
Yeah.
another name for it too, when you draw like the different circles and stuff. There's a different name besides compass.
Well, are you talking about the flat plastic one that's like a half arc, the protractor?
No,
Yeah,
the
protractor
compass,
is
you put a
basically-
pencil in it, and then
Yeah,
and then you draw a circle.
I maybe just don't remember because it's a long time ago that was called a compass, but it could be
I think it
made
is compass.
Yeah, it's called a compass, and it has a metal point that you put down in the center of what
Right.
circle or shape you want, and then an adjustable arm with a pencil on the end, and then so you can draw perfect circles however size you want them by how you spread the arms of the compass. So
Okay.
yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think
maybe,
I think they use the plastic protractors in school now because the compass can be kind of dangerous.
It's a weapon.
With that metal point.
Even in my day, the boys were using those as weapons.
yeah,
So,
I don't
yeah.
know what how sharp ours was, but yeah, because you put a little pencil and then you have a little, you
Yeah.
secure it. Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, but protractor I think is like traceable, so it's a little bit different, right? The half circle.
Yeah,
But you're right. Yeah.
It has arcs and a straight edge, and it's plastic, so it's not quite as dangerous. But yeah, you can use it for different.
Yeah, I think you should.
reasons.
I think your challenge for you, it's probably a small challenge since you write regularly, is to do one about the protractor, not protractor, the compass. And or protractor.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic image. Now I
love that too.
saw Casey flash something up. Is he ready? I would like to hear what Casey's gonna say because I'm gonna have to leave in a few minutes. Casey?
Okay. So the first one I shared, if you want to scroll up to it, it starts with explore. That's one I did in my poetry class in college, and I had to present it in front of the class. And when I did, everyone was like, "Oh my goodness, that's the best one." Not trying to be humble, but if you like, if you notice, each line has the same amount of syllables, and that's what took me. Yeah, that's what took me forever to do. I don't have many poetry ones, but I'm going to share a couple more here in a second. But this is one of the ones that when I did it, it was with poetry in mind. I had a bunch of little fragments and I just combined them all. And what took me the longest was making them rhyme. So I'll go ahead and read it off to you. Explore the still environment, grow branches till retirement, search for answers, value the time, reach the standards, salute the climb, slave to systems and lose the choice, or gain wisdom and use the voice. I guess your voice could work there. Hurry no more, figure it out, worry no more, lose all the doubt. Desire is fiending, let the blaze rage, there is no meaning until it is made.
Good.
It's pretty deep. I don't know if fiending is a word, but had to rhyme it somehow.
That's called poetic license. You can make words.
Right. All right. Here's another
Is that
one.
in the chat? Wait a minute. Is
Yeah.
that in the
Yeah.
chat? Okay, let me get it up. All right.
And that kind of goes, it goes
Influence
antithetical to, wearing the mask, because you're saying, you offer the option of like succumbing to systems.
Well, I
Obviously-
actually wasn't even trying to stay on topic with that one. This next one, this next one is more on topic. Did I send it to everybody?
Yeah.
Full goal.
Oh, there it
It's in
is.
the chat.
All right, yeah.
All right, these next two. So that's one of them. And I don't know if we have time to read them, but they're not too long.
Yeah, we have time. Go if
Yeah,
you're
go ahead,
comfortable.
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay, Fool's Gold. And this is, both of these go to the masks, I think, in my opinion. When looking for role models, read every campaign's fine print. Eventually, the words of whom we believe are supreme become a part of our dreams and schemes. So refrain to make a hype man an idol. Material riches are why they blab their pie hole. Men's stitches by refusing to be lied to, and eventually you may find you. And then this next part I just kind of added in. I'm a glow stick. The more they break me, the more light I spread. But I'm not here to break you. I want to make you realize the demise that lies within those you idolize. So it kind of ties back in here.
Nice.
The
Glow stick,
title,
that's
Fool's
wonderful.
Gold.
Imagery.
That's deep. Fool's Gold just being the title was kind of symbolic. This next one's kind of along the same lines. Organic robots. The judgment of worth is what we post, front, and flaunt. Rather than words or character, we follow the screamers, the narcissist pushing outcasts to become further outliers. Look at my diamonds, gold in my teeth, check out my car, narcissistic society, and the impact you have on followers you don't know. Instagram is the only place that feels like home. You are lost in a zone where everyone wants the throne. And we have all forgotten how to talk without a phone.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, they're all very
How to
different.
talk without a phone. Oh, man, that's powerful.
Right.
Yeah, I
Um,
enjoyed all these.
Yeah, I have a bunch of other ones, but they're not poems. They're just like what you were saying, Karen, I believe, which is when you wake up or you have a moment where you just start writing and you don't stop writing, stuff like that. But obviously, you don't have time for that. Here's the last one. This is just a song. I figured was
No singing or singing.
no singing. I'm not even gonna read it. So if you want to read it, go. It's not letting me paste for whatever reason. It might be too long.
You can email it to us, or if you want to read it from your document.
And I think I might be able to figure it out.
You can get it in chat. That'd be quickest here.
Yeah, he's working on that and having trouble with it.
I was gonna say while you do that, I'm kind of low-key sad that you didn't write poems with us each session.
I'm sorry. I got a job to do here.
I know I could have asked Linda special permission. You could have been every week you could have been our participant.
And this is set to music. Is that right, Casey?
This next one I'm about to send, those are just poems.
All right.
I like he said, just poems.
Tisk tisk.
You should make a song out of that thing about can't talk without phone.
That's true.
Yeah.
We did a year ago.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I'm working on a website. I'll probably put that in the blog section,
Oh,
something like that. But yeah, here's the song. I guess it was too long to send all at once, but it's more of a positive song about life. So you can go ahead and read it if you want. It's a little too long. I don't want to read it.
Do you want me to read it, Casey, or you don't want it to be on the recording? No pressure.
Go for it.
Well, no, I want you to know I work with him every day and I'm in awe and shock.
I know, Miss Linda. You could have had him lead the workshop the one day I was missing.
Yeah, I'm a perfectionist. I haven't shared all this
You
stuff.
don't share much.
Yeah. Miss Linda, you're next. So we're about to be in awe about you. Better whip up something real quick.
My awe is I'm under so many deadlines today. I have a grant due
Ooh.
Friday,
Hmm.
and we have a gala that's coming up May 20th, and I have invites I'm trying to send electronically. I'm like, and also Franklin County, I'm trying to get stuff sent into them. And I have a 5 o'clock deadline today.
Oh,
Now you can be in awe of me because I
Yeah,
can't.
I could read Casey's.
Yeah, you read that one, the intro. I like the intro,
Okay.
preparing my future while letting go of the past. Read that one.
Okay, I will not be singing either because we'll just have to end it
Okay.
immediately.
Hopefully it doesn't get leaked.
Okay, intro. And I'll just read it without mentioning like what verse we're on. Preparing for my future while letting go of my past. You can find me somewhere in between. All I needed all along was a little light.
Yeah,
peace in my
ignore
dome.
the.
Oh, sorry.
That's
I
like
didn't
the
know if it was
echo for whenever. it
Oh,
goes.
okay. I didn't know if it was a repeat. Okay.
No.
All I needed all along was a little light, peace in my dome, friends by my side. I'm right where I belong, finally taking flight, feeling like I'm wrong, but knowing that I'm right. Years keep passing by. I'm doing all I can. Nothing in my life ever goes to the plan. I still think ahead. I stay on my toes. What comes next, shh, nobody knows. Everything I say never really holds, but everything I touch turns to gold. It's never what I think, because everything changes. How am I supposed to know where we'll go? Where we'll go?
It's
Where
a
we'll
song,
go?
so it repeats.
Where we'll go? That's probably not how it goes at all. Who's to say? Who's to know? Where we'll be? I guess we'll see, but I will glow because I believe in my golden road.
nice.
And then that last stanza repeats as well. I just realized that. Thank you. I like that. I also had an idea of what the tune looked like, but this
We're
is.
seeing a whole new side of you,
I
Casey.
know.
Didn't
Even
know it
Linda's
was there.
surprised.
I gotta go now, guys. It's great to be here. I've enjoyed it all so much. Thanks a lot.
Likewise.
All
Thanks,
right.
See you.
Casey.
Thank
All
you
right.
for
Take care.
participating.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. You could have been writing in our 20-minute writing time, even though I know like you're, here for support, but you could have supported your writing. We could have supported your writing, but I'm glad you shared. I guess you shared enough for each week to be compatible. You shared 5 different pieces.
Yeah, I do it for a living.
And we're only on 7, so you're pretty much caught up. So I appreciate you sharing. And I will
Thank you.
check out, especially if you have this one on the folder you sent us. I don't know
It
if it's
is.
called, if it has a title.
Yeah, it's called Where You'll Go, or Where
Okay.
We'll Go.
Okay,
Yeah, it's in there.
I'll open that one up. I see it. Sweet. Miss Linda, I know you don't want to share, but I'm happy to share, talk about whatever. I'll let Casey and Karen decide. If you have something you want us to cover, let me know. I don't think that there's anything I have to do specifically to close, but we still have a decent chunk of time here till 1:30.
Yeah.
Right, and I just want to thank you and I enjoyed working with you. I learned a lot. And I'm sorry I couldn't participate more, but that's what happens even in our workshops in person. I'm staff, so I'm working. Karen can vouch for me. Casey can vouch. I never get to sit down and do the fun things, what I like seeing and hearing. And I just want to thank you because you've been delightful. And I'm hoping we can expand and do something down the road.
Yeah, thank you.
In
Thank
the
you.
future. So I hope you got a little something from us and we'll continue pursuing it.
Yeah. I mean, I really, I'm happy to do a nice little speech as well. I don't like to do speeches because I have a weird relationship with being emotionally vulnerable, but I don't think this will be too much in that direction. But yeah, I also really appreciate when they told me I was at King Arts. I'm like, oh, that's right where I used to work across the street from.
I know, I was so
Yeah. And
excited.
so I think every time there was like this season, my foster son plus like a substitute special needs kid I had came out with my partner to Amina Robinson Day, and I was really sad I couldn't come, but I was like facilitating, not a poetry workshop that is as cool as this, but more like stuff I do in schools. So I wasn't able to
Oh.
come, and then I had to, yeah. So that day I was like nonstop. So they're like, we'll just go to Amina Robinson. And they really
Oh,
enjoyed the activities.
yeah,
We were fighting
that was
about,
good.
yeah, who had what painting. And I'm like, okay, this is about community, not about, yeah. So they really enjoyed it.
That was
I
an
don't think
awesome
they'd been,
day.
yeah. I don't think they had, either of them had been to King Arts or understood the historical perspective. So I'm glad. But so there's been other overlap. And then the other day I saw a mural on your wall that was done by somebody that
Yeah.
I know that I didn't know about. So that was really nice as well. So anyways,
Oh,
King Arts
really?
Complex keeps on coming up.
One of the artists that worked on the mural?
Yeah, you had a couple of people. One of them was Lance,
Ada, yeah,
Lance,
Lance.
yeah.
and the other one was Ada. Yeah,
Do you know
I don't know how
Ada?
she pronounces her.
Ada Oben,
Yeah, I think it's Obii. I don't remember the spelling, but I know Ada of Ada mostly through Lance. It's a long story, but I'm working on a public art project, and both of them are on the Wally Neal Mural League. And so in that sense, I know them from by Lance. I know, like I've met him a couple times. We share opportunities. I knew him before he moved to Columbus, and then Ada, I just got exposed to through Lance, through the Wally Neal League. And I really appreciate
Oh,
her work.
yeah,
So, yeah.
Who was
Yeah.
it, Casey, we had here doing
Ada.
Ada? So do you know Ada or not?
I know of Ada, so
Okay.
I don't think she knows who I am. I've looked at her work recently through Lance, because I think they collaborate from time to time, but I don't have a relationship with Ada. But now I've heard of her work, and I know she's up and coming and super talented, and reminds me of Amina Robinson in her own right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, this is very Amina Robinson. So that's how I came across Ada, through this public art stuff. And
Right.
so, and the Wally Neal League, and through Lance. So yeah.
So
I just-
Karen, was you able to, did you come to the Amina Robinson Day?
No, I didn't make it.
Okay. It was an awesome with all the different artists that participate.
Yeah. Karen came to the other one. I asked her a whole bunch of questions about your in-person First Tuesday tea. I was like, who sang? What did they say? I didn't ask that many questions, but I was like, did you memorize the lyrics? No, I asked her. I asked her at an event she invited me to that I was a participant for a poetry workshop.
Now, let me just say to you that anytime you would like to come to First Tuesday Tea, you are not a senior, but Casey's not a senior, and
That's
Casey
true.
is there. We would love to have you stop by.
No, I'd love to, because I know you had a Tuesday tea with Adrian about planting, like,
Mhm.
and then also with Parnell Willoughby. So I saw those on when I was looking up First Tuesday tea.
Yeah.
And then I know that I don't know if she's presented or just attended from the Ohio Arts Complex Chiquita, but I noticed, yeah, you had Carnell at one of them, and then Adrian. I just noticed their faces from the Zooms. So yeah, it's just
But
nice,
let
interesting
me
to
tell you,
follow.
I'm working with Adrian for our June one coming up.
Oh,
And then,
cool.
another person would be Greg Pearson, who does chair exercises, and he's so much fun.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, everybody loves the exercise, so
He
we'll
gives you a
exercise.
workout in the chair.
Yeah.
is that what have you all had it for First Tuesday tea, or he's come for other stuff?
No, just First Tuesday tea.
Mhm.
And so it was a workout session after you ate.
No, I think it's before. Yeah, it is after we eat, because we eat first and then we work.
And we did
That's
do
very
one.
nice.
with
Yeah, no,
Shakira.
especially if I know that what's happening, I would love to come, because yeah, King Garces, and I've had friends feature there. Like I mean, I don't know if the gallery opening is the right word during COVID season, but yeah.
Yeah, well, we're trying to get all that back together, so.
Yeah.
After 2 years, I tell you, it's like Casey can vouch this. It's all a little overwhelming because we had the first, we come back and we plan things and then we couldn't do things. And then we planned things and we put programs together and we couldn't do it. So it's like everything's all, we've got Dream Awards coming up, a gala coming up, a wine sip coming up, First Tuesday, the music festival series. So now we're back.
Yeah, and your summer, are you gonna have a summer program? with the young people.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe all the ideas you paused, you can re-inherit, revive. I don't know what the word is, but you know what I mean. Bring back on the surface.
Reinvent.
Yeah, or re-envision. I didn't know what the proper term was, but bring back up to the surface and execute. Yeah. So.
Yeah. But again, from my heart, I thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm excited to have all the overlap, and even, you know, I know you were concerned about numbers. I'm not ever concerned about numbers. You know, I'm not concerned about the platform. Personally, I don't mind the platform. You know, I'm super flexible, so I'm happy. And I also got to actually, out of the lesson plan I created, I think I got to do like I had 8 entire like thematic elements, and I got to cover 6.5, I think, honestly. So that's not what I expected, because I was told that I'm trying to do too much, you know, which I agree with. I already knew that. Trying to do too many themes and too many writing elements in a short period, and we shouldn't just, you know, like, I don't want to pressure anybody. So in that sense, I was wary, but then each time I sat down, like, to put the slides together, like pulling from the lesson, I'm like, no, let's try it. So it worked out. So I don't know if it was too much.
I think, well, just, you know, if I wasn't on, I've always been listening and trying to stay attuned to what's going on and learning. But I think you did an awesome job. And, you know, when I get with Ohio Arts Council, you know, I'm sure everything will be great.
Yeah, I have a, honestly, I was surprised they picked me, as long as I'm not going to go on a soapbox, but Jared at the Arts Council, I'll actually send this to him since it's recording, and I've given him a shout out before on like through a private card or whatever, but on a public level, yeah, he's the one who basically convinced me to apply to be an artist on the roster. I think you should consider that, Karen, if you're trying to do teaching artist work. But he's like, you should apply for the roster, and you know, Susan Bradford's on there, Duarte's on there. So I'm like, I don't think you understand. I'm not, that's not like, I'm not in that lane. And then he convinced me to apply, got on the roster, and then everybody in the roster from my cohort, year 1 and 2, was invited to apply to the creative aging. And I was like, hey, I don't, you know, I've done stuff like in multiple settings, quote unquote. Like, I've ran a poetry workshop for kids completely on my own. I've done stuff in schools, you know, I've done stuff in nonprofits, summer programs with adults, but I haven't done something with a specific age population in terms of when it comes to adults. I didn't think I was qualified. And then Jared's like, you should apply. So I was like, and you know, my whole pitch was, I'm really interested to learn, and this is really an ideal opportunity. And if I worked with folks that are 55 and older, it's been inclusive, not exclusive. So I was really glad to be, you know, just go through a basic training and then have community. Everybody on that was selected was super experienced and definitely not in my age bracket. So it was just really nice to be in that space with super experienced people. So I've got to meet some other artists and such, and super humble people who've been doing this for a long time. So I am incredibly grateful that I was chosen. And when they said King Arts, I'm like, I know exactly what King Arts is about. So it wasn't like, you know, here's a place that I had to like Google it up or something.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm really grateful.
You were coming.
Yeah. And I'm glad. So I definitely would love to meet you all in person.
Oh, we definitely,
you know, whether that's outside on your, you know, I know you have the summer concerts coming up, so that should be exciting. So I will look forward to meeting you all in person.
Feel free to come. We work them, but they're long days. But I'd love to have you come and maybe sit on the patio and enjoy the music.
Yeah, because you have those are evening programs, or they're daytime programs? Like late evening, afternoon, right? Like 5 o'clock-ish.
Yeah.
So no, so I'm glad that I got to meet you all. And I'm also really appreciate you, Karen, for coming on every week. I need to send Lucy.
Karen's been a star.
She is. I'm like, I know somebody. I was like, no, I'm not gonna know anybody. So yeah, so I appreciate
a lot of people.
Yeah, and Karen's like we call her, I don't know if they call her Queen, Mama Poet, Queen, although I can't put it in the right
Mama
words.
Bear. They call me the Mama Bear of the poetry scene here.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm like, she's all over the place, literally, and I know that because she mentions it. Like, I'm
Well,
gonna
I
be on
know,
these.
every time we get on, she's like, oh, I was there and I was there and I know her.
Yeah, and
worked
she
with her.
publicizes. Yeah, and you bring people along. And Karen's come to my other shows and stuff at Streetlight and such. So I appreciate you, Karen. It means a lot. And you just support. I think getting support from people who are doing the work and super involved. I'm thankful.
Great asset.
So thank
So
you.
Linda,
We thank you.
Linda, the
Thank
next first Tuesday too is next Tuesday. First Tuesday is in June, right? The 7th.
Yes, right. None
Yeah.
in May.
Keep
What is
that
the
in
topic for
mind,
that?
Fariha.
What did you say, Karen?
I said keep that in mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the topic for June? Or you don't have it finalized yet?
So I think it's going to be the chair exercises and Adrian with garden. We might be painting a pot, or we might be planting a pot, or
Oh, with Adrian?
She hasn't answered
Okay.
me yet, but she usually.
Okay, yeah. And I'm familiar with Adrian through like a Women of Color collective, through Zora's House. I don't know if it's called a collective, but a community space collective, etc. So
What house
yeah.
is it?
Zora's house.
Have you heard about it?
Zora's house?
Mhm.
Yeah, my granddaughter's on the board, Ashley Ingram.
Oh,
She's on the board for Zora's house.
yeah. I people have heard of Ashley Ingram, including me. So yeah, I am a member, and so Adrian was also like an ambassador and a member. So that's how I met Adrian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Mhm.
So any questions you all have for me or Ohio Arts Council? Honestly, the last thing, this is more logistical, but the last thing I'm doing for them is just, I just have to submit like a report. It's not a report as much as it is a reflection, for them to continue to improve and such. And then we have a gathering May 10th or 11th or something. I don't know what's going on during the gathering, but everybody that was in this cohort that got selected for the residency. I don't know exactly, it's not really a residency, but it seems like one is going to be meeting. I think it's in person. So that's kind of nice. I don't know what it's going to involve, but I am incredibly grateful to A, have met all of you, and B, be given the privilege and the honor to facilitate just A, with folks that are extremely experienced, wiser, have way more life on them and much more to share and offer than I do. So it's always humbling when I'm asked to be in these spaces. So I genuinely appreciate it. Both Karen, Lucia, the other folks that have come on and off.
Right.
And then you coordinating everything and being super responsive, Miss Linda. I'm like, oh, Miss Linda will email me back in 10 minutes. Just hold on.
I know. I'm so sorry.
No, you've been super responsive. So even when you don't have a response, you're like, I will talk to you tomorrow. So it's easy to communicate with you. And I really appreciate that, because it's not the norm. I don't do that at the level you do. So
I'm
it's
just
very
sorry I
admirable.
can't write poetry, but
Well, I think it's relative. It's like,
never, ever. I have a favorite poet, Maya Angelou. I love, and but I read a lot, which is crazy, because people that read a lot usually are into poetry too.
Yeah.
And when I'm not doing that, I'm always like, I love to quilt. So I'm trying to find time to quilt. Then I bring all these crafts that I want to make, like wreaths, and my whole basement is just trashed right
You can add poetry to your wreath, like add one line of poetic something, some poetic inspiration, and add it to your wreath.
Plus, Linda, everybody's differently gifted. And obviously administration is a gift of yours.
That's true.
I don't think it's a great gift though.
Hey, administrators make the world go round.
And we need it, because
make space for creatives by doing the administrative work.
That's true.
And I keep saying, I'm like, I don't have time for this and this, and everybody's like, why don't you retire? And I'm like, well, because when I was at home, I didn't get anything done. But it seems like if I work, I push harder. I'd rather be exhausted.
There is that old saying that if you want something done, give it to a busy person.
That's true. That's
Because
true.
once they're already in motion, they just fit it in and do it.
Well, and the other thing is I'm afraid to stop moving because if I
Mm.
sit, I may never get up. I'm like, I gotta keep going. And
Yeah.
thank God my mind's still good, you know, I
Yes.
feel so blessed because.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, I think everybody's feels lucky and honored that you haven't retired. So thank you for the work you do. It's important. And
Yeah,
yeah, I look
thank
forward
you.
to staying in touch with all of you. I have Karen's contact because I see Karen a lot, but I'll get Casey's information from you, or Casey, you can drop it in the chat if you use LinkedIn or whatever. And then I'll also get Lucia's so I can stay in touch.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then when this poetry comes out on these public art projects, I may or may not, the artist may or may not incorporate poetry, and I may or may not have poetry to contribute, but it'll be out here on public display soon. I don't even know if I'm supposed to say all that. in
Oh,
this
yeah,
moment.
keep us
Yeah.
informed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Casey
you.
shared his link and
Yeah. So I look forward to staying in touch. And again, thank you for receiving me, Linda. I don't know if that's the best word, but accepting or receiving me and allowing me to do this for a whole bunch of weeks, and Karen for participating.
Happy you
And
did
Casey
it.
for unveiling your secret talent at the last minute.
well, we love you and we thank you.
Yeah, thank
and
you.
This is not the end. We're gonna
That's
be
true. That's
together.
true.
And
And I'm in
don't-
the same city. Yeah.
And I will be sending you some information on First Tuesday tea and all that. So
Okay. Sounds
I look
great.
forward to seeing you come through them doors.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
All right. Take care.
All
Bye-bye.
right. See you all.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.